evening and welcome to the October 2nd, 2018 meeting of the Guilderland Board of Education. Would you all please silence your cell phones and rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The first item on our agenda this evening is our high school student representatives report. And you can sit at the table if that's more comfortable.
Good evening, everyone. I hope you've had a good start to the beginning of a new school year. A lot of you guys might remember me from last year. I'm just subbing in right now because we haven't found a representative for this year. So this is probably the last time you'll be seeing me. So I'm from student government, and we got some news for all you guys. This week is Spirit Week actually, and we're celebrating that. Yesterday for the students it was Meme Vine Day. Today was Tourist Tuesday. Tomorrow will be Way Back Wednesday. Thursday will be Red White Day, I think, and then Friday is Class Shirt Day. This Thursday is Powder Puff, which is the girls' football game. It will be held on Thursday. The Spirit Rally is going to be this Friday, and that will be during the day. And it's also actually going to be organized by student government and a lot of different clubs in the school. The homecoming football game is also on Friday, which is at 7 p.m. If you guys like football, you should come. The homecoming dance, if you guys are any dancers, is on Saturday from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. And school-wide news, the SAT will be held this Saturday at GHS at 7:45 a.m. If you guys need to take that. The PSAT is next Saturday. The fall play will be on November 1st this year. And there's no school on Monday due to Columbus Day, so I hope you guys enjoy your holiday break. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. Okay, the next item on our agenda is our employee recognition ceremony. Lynn?
Good evening, everyone. It's such a pleasure to see so many people here tonight. I would like to begin with a huge thank you to the Employee Recognition Committee. The committee is made up of an administrator. Mike Pipa serves as our administrator. Our Director of Facilities and Plant Management, Clifford Nooney, also serves on this committee. Secretary Dawn Weir. Teaching Assistant Lori Tapper, who retired at the end of the last year and then indoctrinated a new TA, so Anne Marie O'Connor is our new committee member starting with this school year. We have Christine Van Ort, who represents our teachers, and we have Beth Beanie, who represents our principals. And these dedicated individuals are responsible for this entire evening, so everyone had a task to bring everyone together. We want to give compliments to Dawn Weir for making our arrangements possible, and I believe that was through our VOTEC program. Is that correct? Not this year? Okay. But Dawn brought the flowers. And I also understand, Mike, that you had one of our art teachers prepare those awesome name tags. So Michelle Romano, yes, so thank you very much to her because they look awesome. I'd also like to thank my secretary, Amber Flanders, who's now responsible for organizing all of the nominations that come in and get the packets ready for the committee to do their work. So it was back in the 1970s when the Board of Education authorized the establishment of a committee to review names of Guilderland employees who have made outstanding contributions to the Guilderland Central School District. These individuals are nominated by their colleagues and chosen by a committee of their peers. And so for over the many, many years this has been in place, we have recognized 483 employees and provided them with this reception this evening. So the criteria for nomination includes, but it's not limited to, dedicating years of loyal service, assuming leadership roles outside of their assignment, demonstrating a pattern of inspiring others, displaying initiative or innovation, demonstrating special acts that go above and beyond normal expectations for making a significant impact on our students and on our employees. This evening, we're honoring 10 individuals. And at this time, I'd like to invite Christine Hayes, our board president, and Dr. Marie Wiles, our superintendent, to come forward in order to present our recipients with their awards. And Dr. Wiles, would you like to start by saying a few words?
You know me, Lynn. Good evening, everyone. I am so pleased to welcome you all here tonight for this wonderful ceremony where we recognize really our best and brightest among us. I know not everyone in this room, but many of you were here with us on opening day of this school year. And I spent a little bit of time that day talking about what it means to be part of the Guilderland team. And I said these 4 or 5 things. I hopefully remember them all, and I've jotted them here. But to be on the Guilderland team, you need to know your role, do your part, offer help, ask for help, and commit to being better this year than you were last year. So the 10 people we're recognizing tonight do all of that and oh so much more. We are so fortunate that they are a part of our team. These are people who every single day go above and beyond, do what needs to be done, think of new things to do for the benefit of our students in our school district. But here's one thing that these 10 people do not do, and I know it's true of every single one of them. Not one ever looks for recognition or glory or attention. They just quietly do the work. And that makes it all the more special to take some time tonight to recognize each and every one of them. On the back of your program, there is this awesome quote, and it's just worth saying it out loud for all of you who are being recognized. May you be proud of the work you do, the person you are, the difference you make. I know I am tremendously proud of you, and everyone in this room, your families, your friends, your colleagues, and our entire school community are so proud of your accomplishments and your recognition. So congratulations for your accomplishments.
All right, it gives me great pleasure to introduce our first presenter of the evening, and then each presenter will in turn introduce the next one. So first up is Mrs. Alicia Rizzo.
Thank you, Dr. Severance. It is with tremendous honor that I have the opportunity this evening to honor a fabulous teaching assistant from Linwood, Mrs. Marion Mim Dvorak. At Linwood, Mim is referred to lovingly as Mrs. D. There she is back there. Although it takes a large group of committed individuals to create a strong and loving community, a single person can greatly influence that community by their actions. Amelia Earhart once said, "A single act of kindness throws out roots in all directions, and the roots spring up and make new trees." That's Mrs. D. Mrs. D plants roots of kindness in our school community every day. She is one of the very first to arrive at Linwood and uses this time to prepare the classroom for students, or she works in common areas like our staff room to decorate for the holidays or to make sure everything is organized. She's the very first one to complete the least desirable tasks, such as cleaning the dishes in the staff room and picking up after us. But she is the first one to step in and start organizing and cleaning because she understands the importance of a welcoming and neat environment. So even though it's not the most fun task, she does it anyway. And even though Mrs. D is the first to arrive, that does not stop her from staying late if there is a concern to be addressed in the classroom or a special project that needs assistance. Mrs. D's team describes her as always going the extra mile for students, and I think every person at Linwood would agree. She is known for her generosity. She is the type of person who buys snacks and treats to share with the students. She's the photographer in the room, and makes sure that every time the class does something special, she takes pictures of plays and parties and activities so that families have these special moments captured. And at the end of the year, Mrs. D presents the families with a photo album that is treasured by her students and families for many years to come. In addition to all she does for the Linwood community, she coordinates the Linwood Toy Drive every holiday season. Her generous spirit and kindness are a model to all students and staff who have the privilege of working with her. Mim has spent over 20 years working with students with special needs. She is tireless in her efforts to bring out the very best in each child that she works with. Mrs. D has the wisdom to know that when adults and students feel like a valued part of the community, they will make the world a better place. Mrs. D has certainly made Linwood a better place for many years. So on behalf of her friends and colleagues and all of us at Linwood, I congratulate Mrs. D on this well-deserved honor. Congratulations. Come on up, Mim. And now it is my pleasure to announce Mr. Alex Finsel, who will present the next award.
Thank you, Alicia. Good evening. It is an honor and a privilege to recognize two outstanding GHS English teachers tonight. Recognizing teachers of this caliber is an easy but challenging task. I feel like I am at my favorite buffet, but I have only a small saucer to choose from the best foods to plate and share with you. In fact, no amount of words can adequately describe Brenna Autry and Andy Maycock. In fact, they need no introduction. Their care, support, and selfless devotion to their students, colleagues, and other members of the Guilderland learning community speak for themselves. They are superheroes in their own right. To be honest, I am not exactly sure how they are able to do so much. I do have a certain theory, however. I do believe that Brenna and Andy are each twins, and I am pretty confident that right now their twins are working hard on something somewhere with someone at this very moment. Although I cannot prove this, what I do know is that their source of their superpowers is their love for their kids and craft. That is how they are able to do so much. Love, kids, and craft. An educator once told me how important it is for every child to form a meaningful connection to at least one adult. Last year, our district further emphasized this point by highlighting the importance of fostering meaningful relationships. Our beloved Brenna Autry has taught English at GHS since 2002. Do you remember what I said about superpowers? The amount of individuals, both student and colleagues alike, impacted by Brenna over her 16-year career is without measure. Beyond nurturing students in her classroom, Brenna has also co-advised the class of she co-advises the class of 2020 and until a few years ago, the class of 2016. She also co-advises the service-oriented club Natural Helpers too. Brenna has been instrumental in expanding high school English electives and creating GHS's hallmark community fundraising event known as the Big Truck Day. In addition to participating in professional development and book circles, Brenna also spends much of her limited free time advocating for parents as Westmere's PTA president and for her peers as a GTA officer. She is also responsible for spreading cheer among her colleagues as Sunshine Committee chair. Did I mention that Brenna also co-teaches too? To be honest, I cannot adequately capture the full extent of Brenna's commendable accomplishments. This is only a glimpse. Her impact has the full force of a titanic iceberg, and I know that there is so much more to her reach that lies beyond what we can possibly see or know. One of Brenna's peers had this to say about her. She does so much for our community, and yet is always the first to reach out when someone is in need. She will send a card, organize food delivery, or whatever the need. Despite how busy she is, she will always find a way to fill it. In short, Brenna is a ray of sunshine, a beam of light that brightens many a person's day, especially when they really need it, providing clarity, direction, and warmth. Please join me in congratulating Brenna Autry. Our next superhero is another talented individual who seems to be always present but rarely seen, especially outside of his classroom. Perhaps you may have caught a passing glimpse of him at a football game or at a school play or musical. You may have even noticed him here during a Board of Education meeting or two. Much to his chagrin, Andy Maycock, is actually here tonight. Ironically, Andy shies away from the very spotlight and recognition that he works so hard to facilitate for his students. This is an incredible feat for a teacher who has been at GHS for almost 23 years, until now. In fact, we had to trick him into being here tonight since Andy has a well-known allergy to recognition. Not only is Andy a profound English teacher and media director, but he is our Wizard of Oz, a man who wears many hats and works tirelessly behind the scenes to support GHS and the larger Guilderland community. Have you ever experienced the panic and frustration of a projector that will not display your videos? A PA system that has no sound? Have no fear, Andy is here. At the high school, Andy is responsible for producing the GHS Reporter and supporting musicals and theater productions put on by the Guilderland Players. He also leads our media students to capture exciting Dutchman and Lady Dutch action on the field. Beyond his media role, Andy is also an accomplished screenwriter whose unique background adds value to several of our English electives at the high school. One of Andy's peers had this to say about him. His reputation for generosity is well known with his kids. They have so much to say about how accepting he is. They are completely devoted to him, and that is because he makes it clear that they are welcome, necessary, and celebrated parts of the Guilderland Players. A lot of those kids don't feel that anywhere else in the school, but under Andy's supervision, they do. Although I am sure that Andy would tell you, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain, please join me in congratulating Andy Maycock. Now, I would like to turn over the mic to Mr. Regan Johnson, our Director for Health, Athletics, and Physical Education.
Thank you. Thanks, Alex. First, I'd like to congratulate all of the other Employee Recognition Award winners and their families. Congratulations. I'm very fortunate to work with some tremendous people all over the district, and I'm proud to be able to recognize two of them this evening. Craig Jensen is a health and physical education teacher at the high school, and he's in his 30th year today, which I found to be very, very difficult to believe. It has been my pleasure to have worked with Craig for many of those years. He has been a mentor for me and many of our staff members over that period of time. Craig is a calm, steady force behind our program and is incredibly passionate about the topics that he teaches. Craig creates a productive and positive classroom experience for his students. He possesses a strong grasp of the content and is constantly researching material to bring into his lessons. In health education, he covers sensitive topics with care and tact. Those are all the ones that most parents don't want to talk about with their kids, but he does it great. Craig is currently leading the charge on adding updates into our mental wellness unit. One of Craig's greatest assets as an educator is his flexibility. No matter what the circumstances, Craig will lend a hand and give you everything that he's got. Whatever is needed to get the job done, Craig is there with a positive attitude and a smile. He has the ability to take a challenging situation, roll with it, and turn it into a success. Craig is constantly working with students during his free period or after school to help them improve. Over the years, he's been an incredibly important assistant to all of our athletic teams as the strength coach. Craig spends his time after school designing strength programs for our students and coaches. It doesn't matter if you're new to the weight room or you're an avid user. He will give you something that you can use to make yourself better. I'd also like to thank Craig's wife Doris and his daughters Danica and Devin for sharing him with our school district for all of these years. Thank you and congratulations, Craig. Our next award recipient is Allison Relier. Allison has been a physical education teacher at Guilderland High School for the last 15 years. She is a passionate leader and mentor for the physical education program. The work ethic that Allison possesses and the example that she sets for both students and colleagues is second to none. She is constantly going above and beyond to give students the best experience possible. Allison is a very competent educator who devotes much of her time to promoting her profession. Allison has demonstrated why she is such a valuable part of the student experience at Guilderland High School. Whether it's participating in a district-wide initiative or organizing a school-wide event, she is always involved in ways to make things fun for our students. One of the programs Allison started was a district fundraiser for the Altamont Food Bank that helps to support the families in our community. That fundraiser has generated over more than $35,000 since the start. Allison's professional accomplishments are extremely impressive. She is a previous New York State Association for Health, Physical Education, Recreation, and Dance Teacher of the Year in 2011. And Allison is currently the Capital Zone president of that organization. She is a consummate leader at both the local and state level for our professional organization. Allison has presented all over the state on topics ranging from technology integration to infusing dance into physical education programs. She will also be recognized next month at our state conference as the Secondary Physical Education Teacher of the Year for New York State. Allison has served as the high school faculty manager for physical education athletics for the past 5 years. She is proficient in maintaining a constant communication with the physical education staff and myself. Allison continues to be a tremendous asset to the Guilderland High School community as she assists in offering a diverse physical education program benefiting all students. She was always looking to add to the program and incorporate more technology into the curriculum. Her leadership in our program and in our building is invaluable. I'd also like to thank her husband Todd and her daughter Cadence for sharing her with us. Thank you and congratulations, Allison. I'd like to turn it over to our high school building principal, Mike Piscatelli, to introduce our next award winner.
Thank you, Regan, and again, congratulations to all our award winners. Whenever someone introduces an office secretary, you usually hear things like, "Let me introduce you to the real boss," or "This is the person who really runs things." These comments usually get a chuckle, but anyone who works in schools knows that these statements are funny because they are true. Tonight, I am proud to present an Employee Recognition Award to one of the real bosses of Guilderland High School, Elaine Gross. I've had the pleasure of working alongside Elaine for over 16 years, and over those years, I've been amazed at the professionalism and skill that Elaine brings to the job each and every day. Quite simply, she knows what has to be completed out of that office, and everything she produces is done extremely well. Back in 2002, Elaine started working in the East Office with one of our long-established assistant principals, Brian McCann. He trained her on the office operations and responsibilities. Fast forward to the past 9 or so years, and now it's Elaine who is doing the training as she worked with 4 new administrators taking over that principal's role. 2 of those assistant principals are here tonight, Matt Ward and Brian Mazza. Currently, Elaine is training Brian Mazza, so just want to make that clear. Elaine's office has tremendous responsibility, including the master schedule, grade reporting, beds, and school tool. Elaine has always taken upon herself to ensure that no matter who is in that office, the responsibilities would be met and the quality of work would be top-notch. Elaine's impact on the high school goes well beyond the operations of the office. Elaine has been working as a producer of the musical with the Guilderland Players for over 11 years. She works closely with the students after school hours, working on fundraising, planning, and theater operations during the performances. Her colleagues say that she is extremely generous with her time, and her presence at the rehearsals raises the bar because she becomes the small-scale audience they play to. Elaine has been a union officer for many years, and in that position has had to negotiate contracts for her colleagues, run meetings, and counsel other clerical staff. But the area where I feel Elaine has her biggest impact on the high school is her relationships with students and staff. Often I walk into the office and I see her conversing with a teacher or a student about what is going on in their lives. Elaine cares about people and is always there to provide an open ear to her colleagues or to reach out to them when she knows they are struggling. With students, Elaine can either be the nurturing mother who provides counsel or the tough love provider to the student who needs direction. She is considered a friend by many of those working in the high school, and students seek her out because she is an adult that cares. Here are some comments from her colleagues. Elaine is a treasure. Poised, intelligent, classy, loyal, thoughtful, organized, and compassionate are all words that I would use to describe my coworker. She does all this with a smile and no complaints. One of the most helpful, most caring, and most professional people that I am lucky enough to work with on a daily basis. She is also a source of strength to many of us. She knows when to come and find us and check on us. She helps us through our difficult days by knowing when to let us talk it out and when to just be there. She is supportive and never judgmental. She is a calming force and a voice of reason. Elaine, I hope this award helps you understand how much of an impact you have on the high school and how much you mean to all of us. Congratulations. Now it's my pleasure to introduce Chris Anita, principal of Pine Bush Elementary School.
Thank you, Mike. Good evening, everyone. Please join me at this time in recognizing Jane Trendell, Pine Bush Head Custodian, as a recipient of this year's Board of Education Employee Recognition Award. And Jane is seated right over here with her family and daughters, sons, and grandchildren. It is almost hard to define all that Jane does for our students and staff because she continually goes way above and beyond the daily tasks and requirements of her professional role in our school. In addition to being there for students and staff wherever and whenever the need arises, Miss Jane, as she's more affectionately known, likes to make a personal connection and be a positive influence on others. She is always willing to lend a helping hand and readily makes herself available to assist however she can. Aside from her regular responsibilities as a head custodian, Miss Jane is attentive towards all students and staff, as evidenced by her ability to know almost every student at Pine Bush by their first name, which is hard to do with almost 500 students in attendance. And I sometimes consider this a personal challenge to know first names as well as she does. When she's not completing a task, Miss Jane will be in the front lobby in the morning with our school therapy dog Willow, greeting students and visitors with a smile in a way that is gentle and kind. And if she's not there, she can often be found talking with students who attend our morning drop-off and breakfast program in the school cafeteria, just talking and listening, finding out about them as children and as learners. Miss Jane is especially fond of those students in our BOCES programs at Pine Bush, and despite the unique challenges and limitations that these children experience, somehow Miss Jane finds special ways to connect and communicate with these children, which always puts a smile on their face. She willingly assists our clerical staff at busy times when we need to distribute pre-printed visitor badges in the front lobby, and this is no small task. This is often done during special classroom and school-wide events when parents and grandparents are eagerly waiting to enter the school to see their child or grandchild perform or participate in an activity. And they want the line to move swiftly, and Miss Jane sees that they are not disappointed. Miss Jane has also helped our clerical staff to clear paper jams out of our copy machines and replace toner cartridges and staples at those times of the day when multiple copies need to be made in record time. And if you were to see her in action, you would think she was trained by one of our copy machine companies. And if this were not enough, Miss Jane has been known to decorate the door to her office for the holidays for students to enjoy. And she has even been spotted dressed like dear old Santa Claus, peeking into the windows on the roof above the cafeteria just before the holiday break to inspire the masses during lunch or to challenge the skeptics. All of this on top of her regular responsibilities of keeping our school building neat, clean, well-stocked, keeping the grounds landscaped, the parking lots and walkways clear of snow and ice, the tiled floors reflectively shining, and the windows utterly spotless. And these are no small tasks in an elementary school, as those of you with young children can attest. It is understandable, then, to see just how Jane Trendell influences and supports every member of our school community at Pine Bush. She exemplifies the best of the Guilderland School District and is an exceptional individual, most worthy of an Employee Recognition Award this evening. Jane, you are far more than just a janitor, as you sometimes jokingly remark. You are dependable, you are thoughtful, and you are very much appreciated. And on behalf of every member of Pine Bush Elementary School, I thank you, and I offer you my sincerest congratulations on this worthy recognition. It is now my pleasure to introduce my colleague, Dr. Beth Beanie, principal of Westmere Elementary School.
Good evening. It is with great pleasure that I recognize Ms. Sarah Richardson for this Employee Recognition Award in the Guilderland Central School District. Let me take you back down to the elementary level and tell you more about Ms. Richardson. For the past 9 years, she has taught both kindergarten and first grade, and what stands out most in her teaching is her compassion and creativity for every student to be a successful learner in her classroom. Ms. Richardson not only has incredible patience and amazing classroom management that she weaves into her lessons, but it's also worth noting her patience and what she does above and beyond the academic curriculum, including the infusion of technology with young students. Upon entering her first grade classroom, anyone would easily notice how students are actively engaged in a collaborative and creative classroom. At the start of the day, these young learners are greeting each other by name as they sing the morning greeting. No matter the subject matter, students are working collectively in small groups, partnerships, or even independently. There is a foundation of respect in her class, and students helping students is a common practice. Ms. Richardson believes in every child's ability to learn, including students with disabilities, English language learners, or students with social emotional needs. No matter how you might describe a child in her class, she works tirelessly to find solutions for that child who might be struggling. While some students learn things more quickly and others take more time, Miss Richardson will find a solution, and you might even hear her say, "I just haven't figured it out yet." In addition to her teaching and support for students is Miss Richardson's love for technology. Her students are able to log into many different programs using Chromebooks or iPads as they share their learning with parents through Seesaw, a digital portfolio system. Students make weekly posts, record their work, read their writing aloud, or share explanations in science or social studies. These young learners also upload photos to share with parents, keeping in mind they are 6 years old. Miss Richardson also schedules mystery Skype visits with other first grade classes across the country. Her love for technology, though, goes beyond the walls of her classroom. She is Westmere's technology liaison, supporting teachers and other students in the building with technology resources such as Google Sites, Seesaw, Google Classroom, and even Google Expedition. Miss Richardson created Westmere's own tech team comprised of second graders who help other students in the building with technology as they wear their red aprons proudly. This method of learning not only teaches those technology skills to others, but builds that self-confidence in the students. Beyond the classroom, Miss Richardson is a Google certified teacher and has taught several technology classes for the Capital Region Teacher Center and at the Google Summit. She truly goes above and beyond to help her students achieve the best academically, socially, and emotionally. One final example of her dedication to students is from a recent December when school was canceled the day before the holiday break. Miss Richardson drove to every child's home to hand deliver a gift that she simply wanted them to have before the holidays. Thank you, Miss Richardson, for your kindness, initiative, leadership, and compassion for teaching. You are well deserving of this award. It is now my pleasure to introduce Alan Lockwood, principal of Guilderland Elementary School.
Good evening, everyone. Tonight, I get to stand up here and speak to you a little bit about the virtues of Mrs. Dawn Nagel. Dawn is a kindergarten teacher, and she is everything you could possibly want in a kindergarten teacher, everything you could possibly want in a teammate, and everything you could possibly want in a friend. Mrs. Nagel is the kindest and most patient teacher I have ever met. She has an amazing sense of humor, which she uses to connect with her students. Each year, Mrs. Nagel asks for the students with the biggest needs to be placed with her, and each year she is able to help them make amazing growth. She has an innate way of making even the most reluctant students want to work for her. And I simply cannot do justice in describing the way that she runs her classroom. It's a wonderful blend of high expectations, laughter, and love. When I first became a principal, a good friend of mine told me that when I was having a terrible day, go find a kindergarten class to sit in. So, Dawn, secret's out. From time to time, when you look up and you see me sitting in your block center, it's because I cannot find a better environment to regain my equilibrium and help me to refocus on what is truly important. Her love for her students is clear to see, which is why The parents of her students respect and trust Dawn. She is able to develop strong relationships with them and help them to understand their child as a learner while sharing with them the successes and challenges of each day. She is responsive to their concerns and always works to solve problems in a child-centered manner. She is a great communicator, and one would do well not to leave their phone around her, or they just might find themselves signed up for a new Gmail account, SNN, and for remind notifications out of her classroom. Well, each day is a full one in Mrs. Nagel's class. She still finds time to serve as a mentor for our newest teachers and as the building's unofficial morale officer. She's rarely without a smile, a laugh, or funny story about the happenings in her class, and she has helped to coordinate many staff functions both in and outside of school. You can literally say that she has brought the giddy up to GES. She is also more than willing to go toe-to-toe with any restaurant manager to ensure that we get our fair share of appetizers. But in all seriousness, one of the most telling experiences I had with Dawn that typifies the type of teacher, the type of person that she is, was just at the end of last year, which was a particularly challenging school year that really tested the limits of her skill and her patience. As we began to make placement decisions, and I had the task of assigning classes to teachers, Dawn approached me and once again pleaded for the class with the most complex learners. That is where her heart lies, and that is who she is. On behalf of the students and staff of GES, it is my great pleasure to recognize Mrs. Dawn Nagel. And now I'd like to welcome up Dr. Damian Singleton.
Thank you, Mr. Lockwood. Good news, I think I'm the caboose in this train of suits here, so I'll be the last one for this evening. But I have the great pleasure this evening of recognizing Mr. Michael Bastian for a well-deserved Employee Recognition Award. Mr. Bastian, if you don't know him, he serves as the district's Chief Information Officer in his role as our Coordinator for Data and Information. And he's also a valued member of our district's Technology Leadership Council. I want you to make no mistake, however, the scope of his work and the benefits that he brings to the district are by no means limited to the words within his title and what they might imply. Yes, crunching numbers and building spreadsheets and charts and analyzing data and statistics are well within his domain and his purview. He completes these tasks with ease for any and all who seek to understand, who wish to improve and inform their practice, who strive to solve complex problems or hope to implement programs and plans with fidelity. Most importantly, he provides the essential information to help any interested employee, whether they be an administrator, a teacher, a secretary, or even students, to do their jobs better. To do better for the 5,000 children and families who rely on informed decision-making and implementation of sound programs. Better yet, though, Mr. Bastian does so with patience and care, and for those of us who know him, a wicked sense of humor. You see, it was not until Mr. Bastian arrived in Guilderland that I was able to accept the idea that data and laughter could actually go hand in hand. Silly me, yes, data and statistics, graphs, charts, spreadsheets can be off-putting to some and truly scary to others. For these very reasons, I have learned from Mr. Bastian that laughter may well be the only way to engage these cautious professionals in a deep and rich conversation about data. Indeed, Mr. Bastian has brought that magic formula to the table for us. On countless occasions over the years, I have observed Mr. Bastian apply this recipe, whereby the fears were allayed and smiles were formed on the faces of those who seemed previously paralyzed by the mere suggestion that data is nothing more than information that will help you be better, and it's nothing that should ever be feared. In addition to Mr. Bastian's critical role as the Chief Information Officer for Guilderland, He has routinely and willingly stepped up to take on new responsibilities as a technology leader in the district. Several years ago, the district transformed its technology leadership structure to a collaborative model where the silos of technology leadership in schools were by design dismantled. Mr. Bastian eagerly embraced this new approach and has since made immeasurable contributions and provided critical inputs and leadership. He has worked closely with all members of the team, as well as the district's computer technicians, our student interns, our curriculum cabinets, our student help desks at Farnsworth Middle School and Guilderland High School, and literally any other team, committee, or stakeholder group seeking his support and guidance. His collaborative nature, his dedication, and uncompromised commitment to helping others be the best that they can be is notable and commendable. Now, I could go on for quite a while, rattling off the many responsibilities and his skills and his attributes, but I would be afraid that they would go to his head, so I will limit them. Yes, he manages our critical student information system, including SchoolTool and eDoctrina. Yes, he keeps the entire district in compliance with the state education department's requirements for data and accountability, data reporting and accountability. Yes, he facilitates necessary data imports and exports, which are critical to the functionality of essentially every other system in operation across the district, whether it be instructional or non-instructional. Yes, he manages emergency notification systems, which for obvious reasons are critical to all of the stakeholders in Guilderland. Now, I could go on, but I believe that Mr. Bastian is recognized for the things that he may not yet be doing, and for those intangibles which make us all better. I'm quite certain that when I walk into work tomorrow, if I didn't have jury duty tomorrow, there will be something new on Mr. Bastian's mind, something that no one else had anticipated or planned for. That is who he is. He's a master problem solver who is often 10 steps ahead of everyone else because, yet again, he strives to make us all better, to make our district better, and to make the experience of every student and professional in the district better. And he does so with a smile and laughter. So I would be remiss if I did not extend my personal gratitude to Mr. Bastian, because yes, he makes me better. So I ask you all to please join me in recognizing Mr. Michael Bastian for all that he does and will inevitably do.
I would like to thank all of our presenters for their thoughtful words about our Employee Recognition Recipient Award winners this year. Through your words, we've learned more about these amazing individuals and the special contributions that they've made to our school community. Ms. Hayes, would you like to say a few words for us?
Thank you. On behalf of the Board of Education, I would just like to congratulate all of this evening's award recipients. I think that there's really no greater honor than being recognized by your peers and colleagues, because it means that you're exceptional at what you do and also that people enjoy working with you. And I think based on the comments we've heard this evening, that's definitely true of all of you. So I hope you know that the district is extremely lucky to have all of you, and we thank you for all of the work you do day in and day out. Congratulations.
So congratulations to each of our award winners this evening. Your dedication to our students in the Guilderland community has brought us all together tonight. And the Board of Education has given us a wonderful venue in which to honor you. After so many years, we call it a tradition that makes us feel good, honors our best, and inspires us all. Thank you to everyone for coming this evening. Congratulations to our award winners. And at this time, I will turn the program back to our board president, Ms. Hayes. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you, Lynn. And I think now we might just take a quick 5-minute break so that anybody who's here that does not wish to remain for the rest of the board meeting can have the opportunity to. Go ahead. Okay, the next item on our agenda is public comment number 1. Linda, has anybody signed up this evening? Okay. So now we moved on to our independent audit report for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2018. Neil?
Yes, I'd like to introduce Mike Rossi from Weston Company CPAs. He's here tonight to present the audit report to you for the fiscal year 2017-2018. Just to give you a little background, Mike did come and meet with our audit committee for about an hour and a half over a week ago. Went through the audit in detail, and tonight he'll, I think, do a more condensed version of that conversation for the entire board.
So as Neil was just saying, that is the 5-point plan. You have to have an audit committee. The audit committee's task is to review the external audit with me and then make a recommendation to the board for acceptance. The audit committee's asked me to come before you tonight, bring bound financial statements, which will go to SED, the Comptroller's Office, and the federal government. In the report on page 1, we have an independent auditor's report. What we do as a profession is we attach opinions to management's financial statement. And on the bottom of page 1, we say, in our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly. That is what we call an unmodified opinion. That is the highest opinion that we have as a profession. After that, you have management discussion and analysis. That is on page 3 through 11. That has been in the financial statements for about the past 10, 11 years. And one of the issues with the MD&A is it's now on a full accrual basis of accounting. We do not keep our books on the full accrual basis of accounting, but we are required to present that by the Governmental Accounting Standards Board number 34. So GASB number 34 requires us to have an MD&A and full accrual statements. If you turn to page 12, this would be the statement of net position for the Guilderland School District for the year ended June 30th, 2018. And at the bottom of the page, you see our net position is a rather large deficit. Again, this is on the full accrual basis. It's required to be this way. The driving factor here, if you look at total liabilities in the middle of the page, it says $222 million. You look up 3 lines, it says other post-employment benefits, $175,730,012. That is the amount that GASB 75 has calculated to be our future health insurance benefits that we've promised out into the future. So, we're placing that liability on our full accrual books as required, but again, we do not operate on that basis, and New York State does not allow us to fund that liability. So, we operate on a modified accrual basis of accounting, and that starts on page 14. And if anybody has any questions or wants to ask anything, just stop me at any time and I'll answer it. So this is the balance sheet on our modified accrual basis of accounting, and it's set up by funds. The first fund is the general fund. It accounts for almost all of the activity that happens in a school district. And if you look down towards fund balance, this is the difference between our assets and our liabilities. And you see we have several different categories. GASB 54 sets the categories. They say there are 5, but New York State says school districts cannot have committed fund balance, so we only have 4 here. Non-spendable just means it's in a form other than cash, and in this case it's inventory. Then we have some restricted fund balance, capital reserve. That is the most restricted reserve there is. It takes voter approval to establish, voter approval to spend. It's only good for the time period that you've asked the voters for in the proposition. And that is a very important reserve because when you're doing a capital project, you transfer that to the capital fund and it offsets the local share that the taxpayers would have to pay. Then you have a reserve for employee benefit liability. This is for sick and vacation time at time of separation. You have a reserve for debt, but that's in a fund, so I'll talk about that after. You have a tax certiorari reserve. That is used when somebody is suing the district and wants a reduction of their taxes. You have an unemployment insurance reserve. If you lay somebody off in a district, New York State pays the claim, but we have to turn around and pay New York State back. Then you have a reserve For retirement contribution, that can be used to offset the local, or the ERS portion of your pension only. It cannot be used for TRS. You have a workers' comp reserve, that's for workers' compensation. You have a reserve for repairs, that can be used for if a boiler breaks or a non-reoccurring repair. And if you don't have a public hearing, you have to replace that money equally over the next 2 years. Then you have the word assigned fund balance, and that is the amount of purchase orders that have carried over. So we have committed purchase orders, we did not liquidate them or did not fill them at the end of the year, so those automatically increase next year's budget. Then we have assigned appropriated, $849,500. That is the amount that we're giving back to the taxpayers to balance the budget. They voted on an expenditure budget in May. The revenues were short of that, and this is the money that we've placed against that to balance that. And then we have the word unassigned, $4,037,021. That is exactly 4% of next year's budget, and that is the amount allowed under Real Property Law 1318. Second column is a special aid fund. It has no fund balance. You see a zero at the bottom. It's our grants. It's 611, 619, Title I, those type of grants. We spend the money, then we receive the money back, thus there's no fund balance. School lunch fund has two different categories. One is the inventory it has, and then it's assigned fund balance because it's positive and it's assigned to that fund. The school lunch fund operates breakfast and lunch. The debt service fund has $1.1 million in it. Our total debt payments next year is approximately $6 million. If we had a shortfall in our general fund budget, we could transfer that $1.1 million over and pay principal or interest on our bonded debt. And then we have a capital fund, and you see our capital fund has a deficit fund balance of $2.9 million. That's typical. What this district does is it buys buses each year, and it buys the buses on a bond anticipation note, which can be rolled over 5 years, and that is not a permanent source of financing in government, so it's a liability and causes a deficit fund balance. This is the most important page in the financial statement as far as I'm concerned, because it gives you a picture of where the district ended up at the end of the year. After that, we have several pages of notes to the financial statement. The notes start on page 20 and they end on page 45. The notes are a very valuable piece of information because they further explain the concepts and they further define the numbers. After the notes to the financial statements, we have what we call required supplementary information, starting on page 46. Required supplementary information means the highest level of authority, this being GASB, has required it to be in there. And you will see on page 46 and 47, the general fund budget in actual. If you turn to page 46, we show the revenue side of the general fund budget, and the reason this is in here is because the general fund is the only legally adopted budget. And you see that our final budget was $98 million. We took in just over $98 million, so we have an excellent job of being able to predict our revenues. Where schools get in trouble is they overstate the revenue budget, they spend their entire expenditure budget, and thus they have a deficit. But that does not happen here. Obviously, we know our revenues to the penny pretty much. On the next page, page 47, this is the other side of the budget. This is the expenditure side. We have what we went out to the taxpayers with as the original budget. We have a final budget which was increased by encumbrances. And then we have what we spent, and we spent almost 99% of our budget. So we did a good job spending our budget. We added $1.6 million between the revenues and the expenditures to our fund balance. So that's a good job. After required supplementary information, we have supplementary information. And if you turn to page 51, supplementary information means that somebody other than GASB has required it to be in here, and that's New York State, obviously, in this case. And at the bottom of page 51, you see the calculation to come out to the 4% of Real Property Law 1318. It's very important to be at 4%. As you decline from 4%, that's one of the indicators for fiscal stress in New York State. So 4%, you're at the Real Property Law, and that's where you want to be. After that, on page 55, we have our second opinion. So, as I said, we attach opinions. This is a yellow book audit, a governmental audit, and in that case, we have to give an independent auditor's report on internal controls over financial reporting and compliance. We're not allowed to audit our own work. You're very lucky here. Neil and John provide us with everything. It's timely, it's correct. We do not make any journal entries at all. During the year, John and Neil reach out to us at Weston Company. We've had several meetings. We talk about things. This is a clean opinion, an unmodified opinion here. There is no issues with the accounting at this district. Very nice. Then after that, on page 57 and 58, this is the third opinion from Weston Company. Because the district spends more than $750,000 in federal aid, and we have just over $2 million in federal aid, we have to do what is called a single audit. It's a compliance audit. And here again, it's an unmodified opinion. There was no issue with compliance when we were doing our test work. We actually tested Title I this year and the school lunch program. So, no issues with compliance. After that, we have the last audit that's included in the packet, and that's on page 63. This is an audit of the extra classroom activity funds. We are required to audit that because the board has oversight over the clubs. And here, this is a qualified opinion, but it's only qualified because it's cash basis. We cannot be there when a fundraiser happens. We are only there to audit from when the money goes in the bank and when the check is written. And that is the qualification. We audit 5 BOCES, 24 other school districts. They all have this qualified opinion in there. And again, it's because of the cash basis of accounting. Overall, the audit went very well. This audit is due on October 15th to the state of New York. I'm hoping that the audit committee is going to make a recommendation to the board for acceptance. And if that happens, we will electronically transmit it with the help of Neil and John to the New York State Comptroller, SED, and the federal government. But are there any questions, anything anybody wants to know about the audit?
Any questions? No? Just one question about the final qualified audit.
Yes.
And you said that that's common to have that. Is there any way to avoid that, or no? Okay.
No. It just, if you look at it this way, if some kids get together and they're going to have a fundraiser and they decide they're going to wash cars, there's no way for us to know if 15 cars showed up, 10 cars, if they pocketed $50, we can only audit what they put in the bank. So
Sure.
there is no way for us to reduce that.
Okay. Anybody from the audit committee want to share any comments, or?
I'll just say as chair that I thought, as he has done in the past couple of years that I've been on the committee, a great job. Weston Company has done really great, and it's very thorough. And I'd like to see that we as a district are doing well.
Great.
And if anybody ever wants to come to the audit committee, it is a fun time. We have a long meeting.
Yes, Sean.
I just want to say that that initial shock of that change in position, I think we saw that a number of years ago when they first made us put those other post-employment benefits on there. So it shouldn't maybe be a shock if you're paying attention to that stuff.
Well, there was GASB 45, and GASB 45 allowed you to put it on over 30 years. Well, GASB got together and thought, well, that's a little weird and different methods, so they reduced the number of methods that were allowed, and they tightened up the discount rate, and they said you have to place the full value on. Now, many states allow you to fund this liability. It's New York State that's not allowing you to fund that. So, but it is a shocking number when you see $175 million put onto your books.
Can I just offer a comment, please?
Sure.
Just want to recognize Mike. He and his firm have been great to work with, and he's a great resource to us as a school district. I also want to recognize John Rizzo, who's here this evening. He's the business administrator and our chief accountant. Does a fantastic job keeping the books and getting all the material prepared for the audit. I don't do any of that. John takes care of all of that, so another tremendous asset. And our business office staff, who do a great job day in and day out to make sure we get these kinds of results. So much appreciation to everyone.
Also appreciation to Neil, I would say. So, we get very good reports on this. Thank you, Neil.
Great. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for coming this evening. Okay. The next item on our agenda is the approval of the consent agenda, which consists of the minutes from September 11th, 2018, the CPSE and CSE recommendations, personnel action items, and the financials. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Barbara, second. Tim? Are there any questions or comments on any of these items? I just had one comment on the minutes. I think at the very end, it doesn't say what time executive session closed. So I don't have that information right in front of me now, but I know that somebody wrote it down.
We can get that.
Sure. Okay. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor? Ben, do you have a?
Not about, at the last meeting, there were some, emergency appointments, and I was just wondering if those had been resolved.
The emergency fingerprinting, you mean?
Right, yeah, I wished I'd known you were going to ask that question. I could have had that information for you. I can certainly follow up.
An executive session ended at 9 o'clock.
Okay, great.
I don't know why I remembered that, but I did.
Anyone else? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 9-0. And now we move down to information items, curriculum and instruction. Damien?
Thank you. I have lots of good news to share with you this evening. The first one, I'll echo some of Regan Johnson's words earlier. We absolutely want to extend congratulations to Guilderland High School physical education teacher Allison Relier, who is still in the room, so I'll try not to embarrass her any further. But she was named the 2018 Secondary Physical Education Teacher of the Year by the New York State Association of Health, Physical Education, Recreation, and Dance. And it is well deserved. And again, as Regan mentioned, if you recall, Allison was also recognized last spring for being named the 2018 Secondary Physical Education Teacher of the Year by the local capital zone of New York State Association of Health, Physical Education, Recreation, and Dance. So the accolades are pouring in for Allison for good reason. Very well deserved, and thank you, Allison, for all that you do.
Yes, congratulations, Allison.
My next item, again, more good news. We want to congratulate Shannon O'Mahony and Susan Bullenton, who had their proposals accepted and will present at this year's New York State Art Teachers Association NYSADA Conference in Buffalo, New York. Shannon's presentation is titled, Sending a Message, Hand Lettering Inspired by the Dirty Bandits. Last spring, Shannon was awarded a PTA grant to participate in a typography workshop in New York City, and this presentation comes from that experience. Susan's presentation is titled Flipgrid in the Art Room. Susan has used Flipgrid with her GES students to critique their artwork. Flipgrid is a technology application, if you're not familiar. Shannon Elliott, the district-wide art instructional administrator, was appointed to the board of NYSADA. She will also be presenting at the conference. Her presentation is Making Art as a Mini Meditation, preparing to learn. And some great news from the art department, so congratulations to Shannon, Susan, and the other Shannon. And from the music department, congratulations to high school senior Sean Donnelly, who has been selected as a member of the National Association for Music's Education's 2018 All National Honor Ensembles, Mixed Chorus as Bass 2. Sean is among 550 students from 49 states and territories who will be performing in the 2018 All National Honor Ensembles program at the Coronado Springs Resort at Walt Disney World in Orlando, Florida from November 25th through 27th. And of course, congratulations goes to Sean. A grade 11 student, Alan Wang, has won the 2018 New York State Archives Partnership Trust Grades 9 through 12 Student Research Award for his historical research paper, Serendipity, an Iroquois Indian and American Anthropologists and Communism. Congratulations to Alan and his English teacher, Mr. Dan McBride, for a job well done. And my final good news for the evening is a congratulations to Alicia Malanga, who is Farnsworth Middle School's enrichment teacher. Alicia was one of 114 teachers selected for a National History Day program titled Legacies of World War I. The program is a partnership between the U.S. World War I Centennial Commission and the National History Day. Alicia will participate in webinars and discussions while learning about World War I with teachers from around the world. As one of the selected teachers, Alicia receives free tuition, graduate credits, and materials for the online program. Each of the 57 National History Day affiliates could choose 2 teachers for this honor, and the National History Day program in New York selected Alicia. As part of the commemoration of the centennial of the Great War, National History Day is proud to partner with the U.S. World War I Centennial Commission to help teachers delve into the history of this global event, said National History Day Executive Director Dr. Kathy Gorn. Malanga will learn about specific aspects of the war she can take back to the classroom to ensure this piece of global history is not forgotten. And this letter is part of the educational partnership with the World War I Commission, the Gilder Lehrman Institute of American History, National History Day, and the National World War I Museum and Memorial. This new educational partnership will educate both teachers and school students about the World War I through a series of more than 100 teaching events nationwide. So congratulations to Alicia.
Thank you, Damien. Are there any questions or comments for Damien this evening? Okay, that was lots of good news. Neil, we'll hope you keep it up with the school business management
Of course.
information.
Awesomely good news. We have the timetable for the development of the 2019-20 budget. Each of you have a copy of the detailed timeline, but just to share with the community a few of the key dates. On October 23rd, we will receive public input on the budget. On December 4th, the board will provide direction. On March 5th is a release of the superintendent's draft budget document. On April 2nd, the board will hold their budget work session. On April 9th, we will have budget adoption by the Board of Education. And on May 21st is the annual budget vote and school board election. Also, in addition to that, we will be looking at some community engagement opportunities, and they will be developed in conjunction with the Communications Committee.
Great, thank you. Any questions or comments for Neil? Okay, then we move to superintendent information items. Marie?
Okay, thank you. First, I just want to say a few words about the New York State Council of School Superintendents Fall Leadership Summit, which was on September 23rd, 24th, and 25th. This was held in Saratoga. Tremendous conference. Its title was Back to Basics, but there were lots of strands that focused on health and wellness, safety and security, climate and culture, student engagement, achievement, individuality, creativity, and helping others. A couple of the keynote speakers were particularly notable. One was Thomas Murray, who is traveling the world talking about how to transform secondary learning, and he has a book called Learning Transformed, 8 Keys to Designing Tomorrow's Schools Today. Very inspiring, very thought-provoking talk, and I got a free copy of his book, so we'll be looking more deeply into some of the ideas that he spoke about. Another keynote I just want to mention was the president of the Truth Urban Theater Group. This was a young man who was a refugee from Liberia, and he told a story of escaping the dreadful civil war in Liberia, leaving his mother behind when he was a young boy and coming to the United States. And everyone assumed he was disabled, and he was placed in a self-contained classroom. And he told the story of his first-year teacher who asked him his story, and it literally transformed his life. He is now unbelievably accomplished. He's a debate champion, a public speaker, writer, playwright, Emmy Award-winning director. His story was truly inspiring, and it made me think about our work here about relationships and how taking the time to ask people their story can have a transformative effect on their learning experience. Just really awesome. There were many, many excellent sessions throughout the conference. The one other thing I want to mention, and I'll bring this to the Communications Committee, was I participated in a workshop on a service called Thought Exchange. And it's a way to quickly get your community to weigh in on important questions and to collaboratively weigh priorities by responding and weighting the comments that people submit. So I think it has a lot of potential. It's not very expensive. And it came with some nice recommendations from some of my colleagues. So I will be bringing that up again as we go forward in talking about engaging with our community. And also, perhaps on my next topic, we may want to use it, which is our task force investigating school start times. We have had a tremendous response to the request to join this committee. When this was posted, I had 34 individuals. We actually have 39 individuals. I continued to get letters of interest as last Friday, which was the last day, unfolded. So I spoke with Seema and Christine Friday afternoon about whether or not we would want to in some way narrow the numbers of people on the community. And we decided to welcome all. There is a ton of work to be done, and I can see a powerful plan to create some subgroups within the task force to actually tackle some of the topics. We have our first meeting scheduled for October 18th. It will be at Farnsworth Middle School in the library classroom. And while the materials here say 4, we're actually going to start at 5 to be able to accommodate the timing of more of the folks who will be joining us. The other thing I'll mention, and this just happened today, Niskayuna and Bethlehem and Guilderland will have a small team meet on November 5th to begin the kind of cross-district discussions. They're a little bit ahead of us in terms of their task force or committees having done some work, but we will jump into that conversation in early November. And this is also a topic on the agenda for our Suburban Council of Superintendents on Friday. So perhaps there will be some momentum. Next is good news. We will be hosting a ribbon cutting for the new playground equipment that is ADA compliant at Pine Bush Elementary School. That ribbon cutting will happen on Wednesday, October 17th at 1 p.m. This is actually a week later than we originally planned. We had to move the date because of some conflicts. Senator George Amador, who provided us with a significant amount of funding to make this happen, will be there to join us. And Mr. Sunita is putting together a wonderful program, including the students who came up with the idea in the first place. So we're hoping that you can all join us on October 17th at 1 p.m. and that the weather is somewhat better than today's was. And then my last item is just a brief reminder that tomorrow at the Guilderland Public Library first at 10 o'clock in the morning and then again at 7 p.m. we will be hosting a community information session about our capital project. Every electronic sign in town seems to be advertising this, so we're hoping for an excellent turnout. It'll be an hour-long program. We'll spend about 20 minutes presenting, showing the video, providing information, and then hope to have a good question and answer follow-up. So we're looking forward to that. Any questions?
10 and 1 tomorrow?
10 in the morning and then 7 p.m.
Any other questions or comments?
I was just wondering who on the, I forgot who on the board is on that start time. Is it Barb?
Barbara and Ben.
Okay.
Anyone else? Barbara.
Just a comment. Have you had any communication with Shaker or Shen on any interest on the part of their communities?
Not since the last time I put this on the Suburban Council of Superintendents, but I think with 3 districts now doing work, we'll have a more robust conversation on Friday. And Shen is hosting the meeting, so I know that Dr. Robinson will be there. And it should be good.
Anyone else? Okay, now we move to board president information. There are several items this evening, and the first relates to voter registration for the upcoming bond referendum. The public vote on the capital project bond referendum will be held on Tuesday, October 16th at 2018. Voter registration is required in the Guilderland School District. To vote, you must be 18 years old, a U.S. citizen, and a resident of the Guilderland School District for at least 30 days prior to the vote. If you are not registered with the school district or the Albany County Board of Elections, you must do so prior to the vote. The district has established 3 dates for residents to register to vote on October 16th. You may register any time between 8:30 a.m. and 2:30 p.m. at any of the elementary schools, or from 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. at the district office on the following dates: Thursday, October 4th, Tuesday, October 9th, and Wednesday, October 10th. You may also register with the Albany County Board of Elections during their normal business hours, which are Monday through Friday, from 8:30 a.m. until 4:30 p.m. If you are not sure which elementary school to cast your vote, please refer to our webpage, the link Budget and Taxes, and use the quick link Voter Eligibility and Absentee Ballots. You can see if you're registered and where you vote in the school elections. Are there any questions on that? No? Okay. The next item relates to the NISBA resolutions. Sorry, I'm having a little bit of trouble with this computer. It's very sensitive. A survey of the proposed amendments and resolutions was shared with each board member to complete for use by the Board of Education voting delegate at the NISBA convention. The results as of Friday, September 28th, have been attached for discussion. Board member Judy Slack is the voting delegate at the 2018 convention to be held in New York City on October 25th through October 27th. If requested at this time, we can discuss the proposed amendments and resolutions that will be voted on at the fall convention. Does anybody have any items they'd like to discuss? Yes, Barbara.
If people could look at Resolution 16. What the resolution basically asks is that school districts be allowed to hold their elections in buildings other than their schools. And this was brought up last year on the floor. And what the people proposing this were saying is that in some of their schools, they are very, very concerned about the inflow of people into their schools, on voting day, and that there's basically no way to herd everybody that's coming as we do, with ID checks and everything. But apparently state law does not allow voting like in your firehouse or local church or whatever. So there were 2 yeses to support that one, 2 noes, and 1 uncertain. I just wanted to see if anybody had thought about it a little bit more and just share what I learned, last year when this was brought up as one of the things.
Does anybody have any thoughts on this one? I think it's interesting because you get a lot of voters and you get a lot of parents and families that vote in particular with this, and they might be more inclined to vote if they're at the school dropping off or picking up their child. But I do understand the argument and the safety issue the other way. Judy,
In our school, in our district, that's not, I know if you go into the school, there's somebody there to greet you and they hand you something and you have to go right to where you're going. You're not wandering around the school, but I would assume in city schools and things, it could be more of a problem.
Seema?
I don't remember when I did this, but I voted yes. It may have been after this, so I'm also in favor of opening that up, I guess, for other districts that have that, like those concerns. I know we may not, but
Right.
other people in the state might.
Yep, I think this will be updated because I also filled mine out after this was already posted.
So did I.
So
Yeah.
that means now there's at least 8.
I was a yes.
All right, so I'll get it.
So do we have
So
to
we
vote
can
on these
update.
tonight, or can?
We still have one more meeting before.
Yeah, we have a meeting just the
Convention.
night before we go,
Okay.
or, yeah, Tuesday night.
should have the total.
Yeah.
Yeah, Teresa.
So would that mean, because I don't recall, being a parent, when you go to vote, you do have a badge when you go to vote.
Yeah.
But if my neighbor who doesn't have a child goes to vote, they don't get one, right? They don't get,
No, we'd suspend that for the voters for that
yeah,
day.
so that, yeah, that's,
But they still sign in, or, they still have to get.
yeah, but you could still be getting anybody in the school, just because no one's, they're not supposed to wander, but what's to say that they're not gonna use the restroom, they're not gonna,
I guess, yeah, I don't see it as a big problem here, but I understand, you know, and what you're saying is true, but I don't know that it's a problem here. And we also.
Well, you don't know that it's a
No, no, exactly. But I'm not as concerned as I would be in a school, and especially multi-stories and, you know, lots of people. Our elementary schools are a little bit more secure, and they are checked in to each school, so.
Sean?
I mean, I certainly support any way to make the vote more accessible to the public. And if that means at an alternative location, I think that's all well and good.
Anyone else? Okay, are there other resolutions?
I got a bunch of them, but if anybody else has.
Okay. Barbara, you want to continue on?
Okay. Resolution 15 talks about changing the penalties for falsely reporting a bomb threat. No, a gun violence. Bomb threats are covered under current law. The threat to come and kill somebody isn't. And so they're asking that, be part of the penal code. To read it more, falsely threatening use of a gun or making threats of mass violence on public school property would carry the same penalties as, right now, making a bomb threat. And, when that original resolution was passed, I mean, we lived through how many on the Farnsworth Middle School and all these, that was the in thing at that time. Now, we've all seen throughout the country, gun violence. And so these individuals are asking that, the penal law reflect modern day life. And how do we vote on that? We had 2 yeses to support it, 2 undecideds and a no. So it'd be hard for Judy to decide on that because it's sort of a tie.
Yeah.
Well, within
I think
all
with the
in, if there's
updates,
3 of
because I know I
us,
voted yes.
Yeah.
I voted yes on
Me
that
too.
one, too.
Yeah, I think it would be helpful, maybe we continue this discussion in more detail at the next meeting, because then we'll have a more comprehensive number of votes. Because you're right now there's several of them where it's kind of on the edge, because at that point only 5 people had voted. If you want to continue the discussion now, that's perfectly fine, unless you'd prefer to hold it off until the 23rd.
Well, the only other 2 that I, would ask people to look at is Resolution 6, which was making kindergarten mandatory. 60% of the people that did it were undecided, 1 yes and 1 no. And the other one was to lobby for gun restrictions. And again, the vote wasn't clear, so that's 3, 6, 15, 16, and 20, I guess, and that was to change the kindergarten date to 9-1 versus 12.
If we
Okay.
could get an updated vote count
This Friday.
resolution by the next meeting, that might help
Yeah,
us.
Yeah, that would be great.
The other thing that I think would be helpful when we get that updated, like right now they said Resolution 14, and then they gave the breakdown.
Yeah, I know, you don't
But-
have the,
When you get it, if it says having to do with X, Y, or Z, you don't have to put the whole resolution, but just sort of
a
pinpoint.
kindergarten, mandatory kindergarten. Just
exactly.
some
Resolve,
phrase, some
the
phrase.
New York State School Boards Association supports proposals making kindergarten attendance mandatory, yes.
Yeah, but just something to
Yeah, just
clue us
something
in as to
quick. It
what
doesn't
the
have to be the
proposal
whole thing,
was.
but
If
if
that's
you didn't
possible.
happen to have this in front of you when you're,
Well, it's above, yeah,
Oh,
we
you
have
mean
it
on
there.
this document?
Yeah, on
no,
the graphs.
we have the graphs,
Right,
but it just said Resolution 6.
by the district,
resolution.
right.
It doesn't say the topic,
Yeah, okay.
so it's hard to remember.
Right.
I was writing it on paper as I was,
Exactly,
yeah.
that's why I does it. Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you. Are there any other comments on this one for now? Okay, so we'll bring this back on the 23rd. The next item is policy review. I know that the committee met, and there are several policies presented this evening for a first read, and I'd ask Barbara if you want to say anything about any of these policies that are here this evening.
1510, 1810, gifts to school personnel are just updates of current proposals that are already on our books, and it's just an update because we continue to look at policies so that they're not really old and stale. The sexual harassment policy is a policy that we already have on the books, but the requirements for the policy have been updated by the state. And we had a policy from NISBA that we really examined, but SEMA had to leave before we finished it.
It's 2
And-
hours, yeah. I mean, we already spent 2 hours on the meeting.
That's okay. But I believe we're supposed to have it on the books by October 9th.
Yep, that's correct. I think the law takes effect October 9th, but we did determine that there probably won't be a lot of liability if we don't approve this until our next meeting, October 23rd,
Okay,
which is why we put it on as a first read this evening.
okay. And while we were perusing the NISBA policy, Ben pointed out a number of, basically, what would you call it? Not grammatical questions, but definitions that he would sort of like to revise, and I think we saw some of that. And so if people would look at that, changing the title from sexual harassment to sex-based harassment, because that is the way it's defined in the policy. Just minor things like that. But other than that, we're going with the NISBA policy, we're sharing it. And they fully admit that once the final document comes out of the state, that they may have to revise it again. So we've seen that happen before.
Okay. I think the state actually did issue guidance yesterday, and it might be useful for the committee also to look at the model policy from the state, because it is a sexual harassment law, so I'd be a little bit wary of changing the name, and the state policy does not have the kind of twofold, like I know that the NISBA policy does, so it might be worth your while to also look at that and then make edits.
Okay, and the other policy that we're being asked to have a first read on is the student personal expression. Actually, this is sort of a second read. If you want to pull that up, let me see if I can pull it up. Ben's concern was that the original policy appeared to have sort of, how would we put it, the administrators really having sort of total control over the personal expression, which is perfectly legal because they are in a school setting. But what we were trying to achieve, and what was her name? Karen?
Kate Howard.
Katie Howard came and, shared some of her concerns with our change in language. So we sort of modified one sentence, and I will pull that one up. Or do you have it, Ben, on your?
That's, Kate Howard is our attorney.
She's our attorney, right. And she did not like how we had inserted the one section. Originally, it read, "The Board of Education wishes to encourage student personal expression. Therefore, the presumption is in favor of granting approval to requests." And she had a problem with that because, circumstances are different and such as that. But what we left inside, the Board of Education wishes to encourage student personal expression. To the extent possible, administrators will recognize the existence of multiple points of view and differences of opinion on controversial issues. And what we're just trying to, that be agenda neutral, so to speak. And she agreed that she would allow us to put that in the policy if we wanted to.
Was she comfortable with that?
I would say she was comfortable with the final wording, but not super happy about it. But she didn't see it as problematic as what we had originally written.
Okay.
Can I just add to that?
Yep.
So Kate suggested that we take that out, and I agreed with her. I know Tim couldn't make the meeting, so there was only 2 people really that I think that agreed that this was something that we should add.
So, that's
The
the,
highlighted portion was something you should add, or the last sentence? was
No,
something
that
you
whole
should add?
paragraph, the attorney suggested that we keep it out. I agreed with her,
Okay.
and there's 4 of us. Tim wasn't there, so there's only 2 people that looked at it. I just want to put that out there.
so now the whole board sees what was done, and you can eliminate the whole thing, or add the 2 sentences, or whatever, when we go to final.
Okay. Are there any comments on this? I just think it's important to, oh, sorry, go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, I was just going to say that the motivation behind trying to modify the NISBA model policy a little bit was just that under the original policy, and you've all heard this before, but under the original policy, the only really criteria for deciding whether to approve, a distribution of materials, student expression, was whether it would cause a material disruption to the school day. And I just wanted to add another factor where, where the administrator making the decision could consider that, the board wishes to encourage, kind of, as Barbara said, kind of a viewpoint neutral type expressions. So just so that when they're looking, if they have a case that's on the edge, that they tip on the side of allowing it because of this language here.
I was drawn to the second paragraph, first sentence, although students retain their right to free expression in school, that right is not unfettered. And based on what you said, the administrators would have really the main criteria would be safety, right?
Disruption to the school day.
Disruption of the school day. So it seems to me that is a very, one thing that they take into consideration, but it's the major issue.
Right.
So everything else, to me, I think it allows personal expression, except if it's going to cause a safety issue. So I think it's pretty broad as it is. So I don't know I'm not sure why the extra language then, if it's broad already, except for the fact that if it's causing a danger situation, then the administrator has to. I mean, are you saying that it's okay, if the administrator could look at that and say, well, yeah, it might be a dangerous situation, but I think it's an important freedom of expression. I don't think there's any choice there, is that?
Well, so I want to be clear, material disruption of the school day doesn't mean there's a danger. It could just mean that people get upset, right? So if you're handing out literature at the, in the hallways and it makes a lot of kids upset, well, is that really dangerous? This isn't referring to walkouts, where we're putting students at risk because they're outside the building. This particular paragraph, and really this policy is referring to just really like sharing of information. So,
But a disruption, that could be interpreted as students may feel not welcomed or unsafe if things were being handed out that were. So I think the administration then has a responsibility to provide a safe environment for all our students. So if somebody handing out certain literature is going to make a group of students feel unsafe or uncomfortable in the environment, there's no choice. I mean, to me, there's no choice. That's it. You provide the environment for all kids to feel safe.
and I didn't want to override the safety factor, which is why we've taken out most of the language that I originally suggested. But I did want a little extra language in there so that for the close cases, there's just something there.
I guess I don't see the need for the language only because everything in our policies throughout are encouraging diversity and acceptance and all those things. And then the only factor here would be if it created an unsafe, or maybe not violent, but an unsafe or uncomfortable, and that would be the one criteria. So I guess I don't see the need for it, but.
Sean?
Yeah, I sort of look at the wording, and I don't think it really adds anything to the policy. I think it's two sentences, but the policy already says those elements. The first sentence, the Board of Education wishes to encourage student personal expression. I think in the first sentence of the existing policy, we recognize the importance of student personal expression. I think I don't want to add words to a policy that don't really have an effect of altering the policy.
Barbara?
I think there's a difference between uncomfortable and unsafe. And I think that's the differentiation. What we were trying to do, if you were to add this, say you had nuclear power. You had kids that wanted to, pass out literature on Hiroshima or something, and you may see some dead bodies or whatever. The other group then should be allowed to, do pro-nuclear power type issues, or be it capital punishment or any of the controversial issues of the day, that if you allow the distribution of materials on one side of an issue, we would like to see the distribution on the other. Now, the administrators obviously still have, their prerogative if for some reason they feel that it's not uncomfortable but unsafe. And that, I think, is what Ben was trying to achieve, that even though we want free flow of information, that we're just sort of asking administrators to be sensitive to the fact that you'd like both sides of an issue, if possible, to be out there.
But why would we place that responsibility on the administrators? If students wish to, put out their feelings about something, they would organize and maybe distribute literature, okay? And administration would say, yeah, okay, that's fine. And then if another group, they could come forward. Why are we putting the burden on the administrators to balance it? It's not up to them. It's up to the students who wish to express themselves. So I don't see why we need
We're not saying that there has to be the other side. We're just saying that if the other side did come up and request that, it would be more. So, for example, the example that I use, because it's kind of why the policy was written, is if you have a walkout, a big demonstration that's arguably anti-gun, well, that doesn't cause a lot of disruption or unsafeness because of the composition of the population of our school district. Whereas if you had a group of students trying to send a pro-gun message or a pro-Second Amendment message, well, then that might make kids unsafe or feel unsafe or feel uncomfortable. And so just because of the composition of the school district, the composition of the students, it might be, if the only criteria is disruption of the school day, well, then it's very easy to say yes to one side and no to the other side. This is just saying, well, if you're going to say, just when you give the initial approval for the anti-gun distribution, keep in mind what that might mean if next week you have to say no to the pro-gun message and try to balance that. It's just another factor. It doesn't take away the administrator's ability to say, no, this is going to be unsafe and I'm sorry that I can't do both sides. And it doesn't force the administrator to say, no, we need the other side. It just says there's more at stake here than just, is it going to disrupt the school day?
Sean?
So I guess I'm even more confused now.
Yeah, me too.
So are you saying that if a group of students wanted to organize a pro-gun rally and they're in the minority and there's an expectation that there would be a disruption in the day, arguments, yelling, screaming in the hallways over it, you would not allow that activity to take place?
If there's just disagreements in the hallways?
Well, I guess at what level is it disruptive to the day?
So,
and then the other part of it too is that, so we're sort of getting into a slippery slope area where we're talking about allowing one voice but not another, because one side may cause a larger disruption than the other side.
Can I just add, so in the meeting, the attorney was there and kind of made a recommendation. From what I understand, with the First Amendment, the district has to try to maintain neutrality, but they have to make the ultimate decision. And that can change depending upon whatever district, some, decision might be disruption here, might not be disruption somewhere else. So the adding the extra language, I said at the meeting, I don't think it adds anything. We're not writing any laws here, and we have to follow the law. So if the attorney suggested that, and this, I think, is just going to get us into problems because people are going to take our policy. If the district makes a decision that people don't like, they're going to take the policy and bring it back and use those words against us. So I'm not sure why we're adding extra literature, and we're not writing laws.
I think that's a good point. I think we need to remember that we hire outside counsel for a reason, and that these are the experts in the area, and we should be able to rely upon it. Not that we can't do our due diligence and ask questions and make suggestions. Of course, that's what we should be doing. But in this circumstance, it sort of seems like our outside counsel was uncomfortable with that. And so now we're basically saying, thank you for your advice, but no thank you. And now we add this language, and if there's an issue down the road, We can't rely on, oh, well, we worked with outside counsel, this is what they recommended to us. We might now be open for additional liability because we've chosen to ignore the advice that was given to us. So that's kind of my primary concern with adding language that goes outside the scope or contrary to the advice that we've received. Ben?
In response to that, from the original language that Kate was uncomfortable with, we did substantially change it and bring it much. We took it down a few notches, so I wouldn't say that we said thank you but no thank you. We took her advice. I understood the point she was making. So the law sets a floor. We can restrict speech to X amount as allowed by the Supreme Court, but we don't have to restrict it that much. So for example, the school publications, we can control kind of the content of those publications as long as it's somewhat pedagogical. But we could have a policy that said, no, we're going to let the students take care of that completely, and some schools do. So, yes, the law is the law, and we can't change the law, but the law sets a floor when it comes to free speech rights of kids. As some of you have said, this doesn't really change the policy all that much. I'm just hoping that by having this sentence in here, one day there's a close call and the administrator looks at the policy because it's a close call and says, all right, I'll let it happen. Might it possibly cause more headaches for us in the future? Yes, but it also might lead to greater student expression, and I personally think that that's a trade-off that we should make.
Any other comments on this one?
One more policy.
Sure.
4512, selection and use of non-print materials for the classroom. This was brought to us by Dr. Singleton, and it's sort of an update, again, to technology, and it includes, you can say it, new phraseology like streaming that didn't exist when it was originally developed. So again, there's nothing too controversial on this one, I don't believe. Just take a look at it, and if you have any questions, give us a call.
Okay. Thank you very much. So these policies will be presented at the next meeting for approval. And now we move down to action items. Neil?
Yes, first item this evening is a resolution to correct the 2018-19 tax roll. There was 5 adjustments that were made. It results in a reduction of taxes received of about $3,500 to the district, and they've all been reviewed and recommended for approval by the Albany County Director of Real Property Tax Services.
And this will be a roll call vote? Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, I jumped ahead again. First, we have to do the audit.
Yep.
So, first we have to have a resolution to accept the independent audit report for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2018.
Okay, may I have a motion to approve the resolution? Sean, second Ben. Are there any questions or comments on this one? Okay, and then this would be the roll call vote.
Mrs. Frederico?
Yes.
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 Ms. Hayes?
Yes.
Yes.
Wyatt?
Yes.
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 Thank you. Next, I'll move on to what I just introduced, which was the correction to the tax roll, so sorry about that. Again, we have a recommendation to approve the corrections to the tax roll for 2018-19.
May I have a motion to approve the resolution to correct the 2018-19 tax roll? Seema, second Barbara. Questions or comments on this one? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes 9-0.
Next is a resolution to approve several service agreements. The first is with Kathleen Lansing. Second is with the Northeast Association of the Blind of Albany. And the third is a memorandum of agreement with respect to the IDA flow-through funds. And we have a number of organizations that fall under that, and they are Achievements, Albany County Preschool, Circle of Friends, Crossroads Center for Children, Oak Hill School, Spotted Zebra Learning Center, Springbrook, New York, Unity House of Troy, Upstate Cerebral Palsy, and Wildwood School.
May I have a motion to approve the service agreements? Judy, second Gloria. Questions or comments on any of these agreements? Sean?
The Northeast Association of the Blind, I don't see that in the agenda. Was that added? I see A and B. I see the MOA and the Lansing agreement.
Yeah, there's just two of them attached there. It's, C, the service agreements, and it's just the MOA for the federal IDEA flow-through, and then the Kathleen Lansing agreement are the only ones that are attached there.
Yes, yeah, the attachment was for Northeast Association of the Blind.
Listed in the printout, but not.
Mm-hmm.
And amend the resolution.
What's the, could you just, do you have the agreement there? Do you have just the specifics on what the rates are? And is that easier to hold it up a month if we could just get it cleared up? Or a couple weeks, sorry.
Here it is. This one is a consultant for the provision of orientation and mobility services for students that have sight impairments. We will have an orientation and mobility specialist going to Farnsworth Middle School, Gilliland Elementary, Altamont Elementary, and Gilliland High School. And the rate is for the school year, and the rate is $55 per 30-minute session.
Thank you.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 9-0.
Next is an agreement with Siena College to make available college and high school courses for college credit during the 2018-19 school year.
May I have a motion to approve the Siena College agreement? Barbara, second Teresa. Any questions or comments on this one? Barbara?
Just had a question. I think it was in one of the NISBA postings today, they mentioned that I think Burn Hills Boston Spa had an agreement with Siena College as part of like an MBA program that the child can get the agreement, I think in 4 or 5 years. Have we been approached by them, or have we approached them for a similar type of situation? I know this is physics.
I'm looking at Mike as he would be the contact. He's nodding, or shaking his head no at this point. No, MBA program, extension of that.
It's the guaranteed admission to the MBA.
Yeah, if a child has an 85 or higher, they would be guaranteed admission. And then they have college credits from high school that would save them like a year and a half tuition. Is it something that we could look into at least?
High school could look into that, right, Mike? Okay, the high school, take a look at that program.
Any other questions or comments on this one? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes 9-0.
Next is a resolution to approve the memorandum of agreement with Parsons Child and Family Center to establish a satellite clinic treatment program for our school district. Very exciting news.
May I have a motion to approve the memorandum of agreement with Parsons Child and Family Center? Gloria, second Sean. Questions or comments on this one? Ben?
So, we only expect to have one clinician, staffed at the location?
Yes.
And, in the MOU, it doesn't actually have the hours. It has the beginning of that sentence, but it doesn't have, the hours. I know that our lawyers are still looking at it, but,
Yes, okay. That's,
not if you knew the hours.
yeah, I think we're going to align probably with school hours, pretty much, so, but we can
Even though it goes out on, even though it's operating when school's not in session and stuff?
Right,
I think we need to do some work once we get up and running on establishing the hours around the staffing that, the actual individual person who will be there. So we're not quite prepared to say exactly what time we'll open and what time we'll close. We do have the understanding, though, that families will have 24/7 availability to make phone calls to Parsons to get support that they need if we're outside of our operating hours. But I think that's one detail that we have not quite resolved yet.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes 9-0.
Next is a recommendation for the awarded bid for dual-purpose copy paper. And the recommendation is to award that to WB Mason Company, which is the lowest responsible bidder meeting specifications, in the amount of $67,208.40, and this is for 3 tractor-trailer loads of paper.
May I have a motion to approve the bid? Ben, second Seema. Questions or comments on this one? Judy?
Have we cut down at all on our use of paper?
Yes. Yes, we have. We used to have 4 a year. We're down to 3 a year.
Now we're down to 3.
Yeah, consistently. I think Damien mentioned before. Do you want to talk a little bit about paper cut?
Yeah, I mean, that's been a concerted effort over the years to try to reduce the amount of paper that we've cut. The tricky part has been obtaining the accurate data around that, so we introduced a program a couple of years. This is our second year with it, called Paper Cut, which allows us to really keep track of the cost per page printed, whether it be a black and white versus a color, where are the high volume machines that are being printed, making sure that the machines that are designed for high volume printing and are more efficient are in the right location. So it's been an ongoing effort for a number of years now, and as Neil said, we have reduced some of the copying and the paper
By a
consumption in
quarter.
the district. Yeah.
Yeah, it just seems with computers and,
Yeah, I mean, you
students
would
having more
expect
access.
that, right? You would expect that for sure.
And I hope that it continues to go down.
Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 9-0.
Next, it's never too early to talk about winners, so we have a bid for environmentally friendly ice melt. Getting prepared for that. The recommendation is to award the bid to Site One Landscape Supply at $8.50 for a 50-pound bag.
May I have a motion to approve this bid award? Sean, second Tim. Questions or comments on this one? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes 9-0.
Next item is a private transportation contract bid, and this is bid number 4 this year. The recommendation, we received 1 bid, and the recommendation is it's to reject the bid. We've since found out, since we issued the bid, that we had a change in some of our routes, and we're able to do the route that we have envisioned having a contract out. So, again, we can do this run without having to utilize a private contractor and save the $12,218 that was proposed.
May I have a motion to approve the rejection of this bid? Teresa, second Judy. Are there questions and comments on this one? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes 9-0.
Next is the resolution to canvass affidavit ballots for the October 16, 2018 bond referendum. And the date that's been established for that is October 17th, 2018 at 2 p.m. at the district offices. And also that the following individuals be designated as the Central Board of Inspectors to cast and canvass the affidavit ballots: Neil Sanders, Linda Livingston, and Castilia Camiso. Just for those that don't know what affidavit ballots are, and those people that come to the polls that we can't verify are residents of the district are entitled to vote. If you believe they are able to fill out a paper ballot and put it in a sealed envelope. And then the next day, we try to confirm between that time and in the opening of the affidavit ballots. We work with Albany County and our records just to make sure we can confirm whether they're residents or not. If so, their bid is counted. If we determine they're not residents, it's not opened and it's returned with a note indicating why it was rejected.
May I have a motion to approve the resolution to canvass affidavit ballots? Sean, second Judy. Questions or comments on this one? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes 9-0.
Finally, this evening, some more donations. First is fish tank and various supplies from Ellen McDonald, and a metal bench with a butterfly back for Farnsworth Middle School from Mr. and Mrs. Thomas Rush.
May I have a motion to accept the donations? Ben, second Barbara. Questions or comments on this one, other than thank you very much for the very generous donations? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes 9-0. Thank you, Neil. And now we move to superintendent action items. Marie?
Thank you. I have 2 items this evening. The first is a recommendation to approve some foreign travel. This is our German-American Partnership Program, where we alternate years either welcoming students from Germany here to Guilderland, or we send a group of students to Germany for an exchange program. And this is our turn to travel to Germany in April.
May I have a motion to approve the foreign travel? Barbara, second Seema. Questions or comments on this one? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes 9-0.
And then I have 3 co-curricular club approvals for the board's consideration. The first is the Guilderland Building Enhancement Club at GHS, Live Action Role Play at FMS, and also at Farnsworth Scratch Programming Club. So we have some very creative activities after school.
May I have a motion to approve the clubs? Judy, second Ben. Questions or comments on any of these?
I just have a question on the building enhancement one. From the explanation, or from how they use the funds, it's kind of vague. Like, do you have an example of what?
I don't actually. I think they're looking for ways to continue to support community building in the school building. I'm not sure exactly what they have in mind, though. They'll work with their advisor to fine tune it.
Any other questions?
Scratch, the Scratch Club isn't on here. I was just
We
wondering.
didn't get that paperwork.
Yeah, that one's not there.
It's listed, but we didn't get paperwork on it.
I have it.
I don't have it.
Nah,
What is it?
we just have the two.
What's that? Club's purpose?
To teach and do projects using the Scratch site.
Scratch is a programming language for kids, so it's
Thank you,
just a
Ben.
special.
So nice to have youth around the table who know some of the lingo. Thank you.
So it's supposed to be easy to learn, so it's probably just an introductory
To
thing
program.
for the middle schoolers.
Middle school?
I think I saw it the other day. I don't see it here now, but
It's not, yeah.
I
we don't
did
have
see
it.
that.
It's not listed in our agenda.
That's odd because I have it.
Here on
Yeah.
the outline?
Yes.
We only have 2, A and B.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 9-0. Thank you, Marie. Now we move to Board President action items. There are 2 this evening. The first is the appointment of workers for the October 16th, 2018 bond referendum, and we recommend the appointment of the individuals that you see before you on the agenda. May I have a motion to approve these workers? Sean, second Gloria. Are there any questions or comments on this? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes 9-0. And then we move to the school start time task force appointment of the individual task force members, which includes board representatives, past board members, administrators, teachers, parents, community members, and high school representatives. May I have a motion to approve the task force?
Additional names that I think she said she got more names since
I think they're
They are
all
all-
on here now.
they are all on here. I just have a question. The Guilderland
First, we should
teachers-
do the motion.
Oh, we didn't do them.
No, I was just
I'll do
about
the
to.
motion.
Barbara, second Ben. Okay, continue.
The Guilderland teachers that are listed, are they middle school and high school teachers, or are they elementary?
Elementary and high school. I don't have any middle school teachers.
Yes, you do, Steve Wolf.
Steve, oh, yes, thank you. Yes, so yes, elementary, middle, high.
And there's some high school teachers?
Jared Foro is high school, and yeah, he's the high school teacher. The rest are elementary.
Just one high school teacher?
We have a high school principal and assistant principal as well,
And 2 high school students.
and 2 high school students. And the high school psychologist.
The high school students.
And high school students, yep. Are there any other questions on this one? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes 9-0. And now we move down to board committee reports. Audit.
End of September.
28th, it's posted out on the portal.
Was September 20th, 8 a.m. Basically, everything other than the charter, I think, was discussed today. We approved everything, so.
Great. Thank you.
And we don't have a date for our next one.
Okay. Business practices, has not met yet. Communications?
We are moving along quite well already. So we've had our second meeting of the school year. We went through the handbook and a couple of changes. In fact, we have under item A, or item A on committee reports, you'll see the combined handbook. Some of the changes that were made was finalizing the responding to emails. The handbook is now gender neutral in reference to the superintendent, and just some other efficiencies in terms of formatting. We talked about the capital project communications. One of the questions that were raised was how well are we reaching out to the community, how well are they accessing the information on the website. We've asked for some analytics moving forward on the district's website, so that way when we have an issue that we're trying to get the community engaged on, we have an idea whether or not that's being effective. We talked about the Board of Education self-evaluation process. We're continuing to explore that. Thank you to Marie for bringing a number of models from other states to take a look at. We talked about the super eval tool and the board activity calendar. We will meet again Monday the 22nd at 8 a.m. and we are moving to the district office.
Great, thank you, Sean.
You need to approve the handbook or get it so that we're going to use it.
I don't believe you need a formal adoption of it.
Okay.
Because
We
it's
need
not a
copies of
policy.
it,
We
and
can
we're gonna-
work with Deb to get it put together in a 3-ring binder and.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, great. And policy committee?
Have the basis of our work, and we're meeting in a couple of weeks.
Great, thank you. And now we move to public comment number 2. Linda, has anybody signed up this evening? Okay. And now we move on to board issues, ideas, and sharing. Does anybody have anything this evening? Seema?
I just have one, I don't know if it would be communications or which group would come up with like some guidelines for our committee meetings, just in like respect out of, to try and respect everyone's time to have maybe a start time and end time, or even, a time allotment next to agenda items. I know this doesn't always happen, but I know like in policy regularly, we have a 2-hour meeting, and then I have to leave after 2 hours. And there's still more policies to cover. So I think, it would be helpful if we knew that ahead of time, like if we know it's going to be a 3-hour meeting, then we should know that going in, so I can say, like, I can only be here for 2 hours. And also, so there's like some agreement upon, hey, we're having a 2-hour meeting, there's 20 policies, we should prioritize the ones that, maybe need to be addressed first to be like in compliance with the law, that kind of thing. So I don't know, I don't think we have anything in the handbook now about, or do we?
We do.
Oh, you do?
The new handbook? Yes,
Does
we
it-
do.
does it say-
Selecting and operating board committees. Check that out, page 8.
Okay. And it talks about like time.
Well, you have to leave it up to the committee. I mean, every committee is different. The first item under committee meetings will be conducted in the following manner. A, the committee chair, with the assistance of assigned district staff, is responsible for setting the meeting time, preparing the agenda, arranging for the meeting site with necessary equipment, and notifying all members of the time and place. B, committee meetings will be conducted in compliance with the open meetings law. C, meetings will generally be conducted in accordance with Robert Rules of Order. D, the agenda listing time, location, and specific subjects will be prepared for each meeting.
Does it say like the time for when agenda items are, for, when documents need to be posted? Like, we had a meeting in the evening, and then the documents were posted during, like, late morning. When I'm
Well, it
working.
says, an agenda listing the time, location, and specific subjects to be discussed will be prepared for each meeting. If applicable, the agenda shall be posted at least 72 hours prior to the meeting
Okay.
in the same location at the district board. That's the postings. Committee chair will coordinate with the superintendent to obtain the information required to complete the task. The chair will notify the board president when the committee recommendations or reports are ready and arrange to deliver the report. The board receives the report, and then on and on. So it looks like a lot of it is left to the group itself.
Okay.
The chair and the committee because each committee is going to function
Right,
a little bit
different.
differently.
Okay.
I think you have to have that discussion.
Yep.
You know, communications, we're watching the clock because we have a morning meeting and I've got to get in.
Yeah.
We got somebody who's pretty strict.
Yep, I think that's important to kind of set the expectation in advance. I know at where I work, the agenda is set a certain way and that the board chair or whoever's running the meeting makes an effort to just keep it kind of on schedule with that, just so people know what the expectation is and then can plan accordingly. So I think that's a good point. Anyone else? No? Okay. So now we need a motion to go into executive session to discuss the annual evaluation of the superintendent of schools. May I have a motion? Sean, second. Teresa. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes 9-0. Thank you.